Hey guys, it's Isaiah and Johnny with Dialed Archery, and today we're going to walk through our full sight-in video. So for starters, just a prelude, if you haven't done your access, level your access or anything like that, be sure to check out the previous video, but we've already gone through and done that, so Johnny is all here perfectly level, and so now we're going to start shooting some arrows. So, Johnny?
Yeah, so first things first, when I mount this to the bow, everything's leveled. I'm going to take my Allen key set and I'm actually going to move this windage bracket all the way down on the rail, start with it all the way bottomed out. It's just a really good starting point. We see a lot of pictures and videos of guys that have them, you know, really high up like this, and it pretty much looks like it came right out of the box. You're not maximizing your sight and maximizing that performance of the sight by not dropping that down. So I always start with it all the way down when the tape is at 0. So make sure you're all the way up, you're bottomed out, and then drop that bracket all the way down. It's always a really good starting point at 20 yards. And the way that it's designed too, the nice part is I can loosen that, move that, and the second axis won't move. So you're good to go there, still level.
All right, so then from here we'll load up our first arrows and we'll see how she goes. So he's got it lower down there. He's shooting a 3H19, so the 3-pin horizontal 19. And so for this, he'll be running his top pin for his 20-yard mark. A lot of guys, you can run these at 20, 30, 40, or some guys will run them at 20, 40, 60. It really just all depends on the preference that you have. But we're gonna start off and get that 20 set. And like with this too, there's kind of two different ways with horizontal pins that you can run them. Either you can start off and shoot 20 and adjust your 20 so it's bottomed out, and then you can shoot 30 and adjust that individual pin to get your 30 set, and then 40 or 60, vice versa. Otherwise, you can shoot this, and what we're gonna do today is we're gonna start off and we wanna get our tape set, and then we're gonna adjust those pins further down. So we'll start off and we're just gonna run our 20-yard pin just like a single pin. So we'll shoot that and run all the way back in our distances. So from there,
okay,
Johnny.
So I have the pins set exactly how they come when you take it out of the box. Top two obviously are pretty close, and the bottom one's a little bit lower. But we'll go ahead, give it a rip here. See where I have to adjust it. So right away, moving that down first shot, it's pretty darn close, which is always a good starting point. If I would have kept it right in the middle, I definitely would have been way too high.
Way too low.
Way too low, yes, thank you. So I'll shoot one more here.
Just to break an arrow.
I'll shoot at a different dot. Try to shoot more than 2. Try to shoot 3 or 4 during a group.
And so here with Johnny, as we walk down here, what you'll notice is he's high on all 3 of these. So as with any sight, if you're shooting high, you want to move it high, shooting low, move it low, left and right the same way. So from here, as you can see by the target, he's shooting a couple inches high, but very close for starters. So, and it looks like he's pretty consistent with all 3 of his arrows. So we're gonna adjust his sight and we're gonna move it up a little bit. So at this point, like depending on how Johnny wanted his particular pin setup, we could individually adjust one of his pins right here up one. But what we would prefer to do, as long as we're happy and content with where that pin is we're gonna just move our entire bracket to get that 20 set up. So, but you could, if you wanted to, or you shoot down like halfway through and you realize you get to switch something up, you could always just move that individual pin just a small amount to get that perfectly dialed in.
Yeah, so me personally, I would rather do macro before micro. I just feel like that's a really good rule of thumb. Do all your macro adjustments, and then when you think you're right there and you maybe have to move, the tiniest little bit, then go and move your pin. The pin is the last thing that I'm gonna try to touch. So I'm gonna try as best to get my macro right there and then move the pin last thing.
And in Johnny's case here too, like with us shooting there, his windage was already almost perfect, so left and right. If you did need to move your windage, it would just be a matter of rotating that knob and getting that dialed in, again, chasing the arrow. So.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, any small, minute adjustment is probably me. But I feel really good about this, where I have it currently. I don't know if I would adjust much else.
And one thing you could do as well too is start aiming at smaller dots. You know, aim small, miss well, and that'll really magnify where, if he is consistently being higher or lower, that's going to help us determine that too. The biggest thing with picking a tape and getting this selected is we really want his 20 to be dialed in perfect.
Yeah, I would say that's the most important, is you want to
Yep.
be hitting dimes at 20.
Yep.
Even if you spend 2 hours at 20 for 2 days in a row, as long as you are, again, like he said, aiming small, missing small, try to hit these targets. You want all 3 arrows to be in an area at least that, and it's just going to make the rest of your tape that much better.
So there's 2 different methods at which we can really kind of help to pick our tape. So the first method would be to go back and shoot 20, 30, 40, and all the way through, have individual numbers off of our sight-in tape. So that's what we're kind of going to be referencing here, and Johnny can kind of show you. So we're going to be looking at those sight-in tape numbers. Our 20 was at 0 because we bottomed out that rail and we were locked there at 0. But we could go back and shoot, you know, 30 and get our number, 40 and get our number. And what we'll want to do is note that number or mark that number on our sight-in tape. It'll come, it's a card or whatever, sight tape selection card. Sight tape selection card. But we can go through and make those marks on there. Or if you want to kind of speed up the process, it won't be quite as exact as that, but it'll get you a really good base. Would be to drop back and shoot 20, and then as far back as you feel comfortable. So for Johnny here, like right now, we feel pretty comfortable at 70 yards. So we're gonna run back and shoot 20 and 70. And to prelude this, we have kind of, you know, worked our way back and got ourselves a good number, so we're not just going out to 20 yards, slinging her wild and see what happens. We know arrows are expensive. So we have kind of worked our way back, but we haven't got like really hard set numbers. So now we're gonna shoot at 70. We're just gonna try to make sure that group is as accurate as possible, so.
Yeah, and again, to kind of caveat off of what Isaiah said, I would prefer to shoot every single yardage. There's really no better way to get the most accurate tape than to shoot your setup, your specific arrow setup, your bow, than 20, 30, 40, 50. I mean, we shoot all the way back to 120 to 130 every 10 yards. It's just the best way to do it. The 20 and, you know, 70 or 20 and 80 is a great method to, you know, quick get a fairly accurate tape. But I would prefer to shoot every 10. That data is going to be way more accurate when you actually go to find a tape.
Yeah, and this is where too, like in some cases, there are instances where their tapes don't match perfectly. And so that's where like we offer our custom tape builder. And so it's a $10 a year subscription. You can put as many tapes as you would like, but then you can go through and plug each individual one of your actual sight-in tape numbers to perfectly exactly match that tape. So all you need is a printer, and we'll have either our print kit or any weatherproof label paper will work. And you can go through and print those off, and you'll have an exact perfect match for every single yardage out to 150 yards. So for that, Johnny's gonna let one rip here at 70, and ooh, close.
It'll look good.
Low left, just a hair.
That felt a little right. First one was left.
First one was low left, second one was just right at the black dot. Height was perfect.
Crap.
Your elevation, I think, is the biggest part, and that's really, you know, I mean, when it comes to picking that tape, that's going to be the biggest aspect. We actually really haven't, with Johnny's setup, he's been lucky in that his windage has been pretty dang close, so we really haven't had to play around with the windage that much. And in cases too, if you start noticing as you're backing up from your shot, if you're seeing that like you're, you know, when I get to 70, I'm shooting further left and it's starting to magnify, those are the times when you want to start looking at, one, is my first axis off or my rail is not perfectly level, or two, is my center shot not perfect. So 2 things to check out if you start seeing instances like that. All right, so we're at Johnny's bale here, still pretty dang good shooting for 70 yards. We're fairly happy with it, but we're still gonna want to go back and just make sure that we're gonna be dead on. We've shot a couple rounds at 20 and made sure we were dead on for that, but especially when we're picking a tape, we want to make sure we're as precise as possible. So we're going to run back and take one more round and see where we end up again. If we're seeing consistency, then we'll stick with that tape there. So.
Okay, so we're going to shoot one more round at 70 just to get a confident mark. Again, the more accurate you are at every yardage, No matter what yardage you're shooting, the better.
All right, so we shot that last round. We're still, as far as elevation wise, we're pretty much right where we want to be. Could be a hair low, but
Honestly, it's probably me.
It's 70 yards. So from here, we're gonna pick a tape. And so the biggest thing that we wanna note, we're at that 70-yard mark. We just wanna make sure we're taking note of what number we are on our actual sight-in tape. So make sure you're making note of that before you head back, and we're gonna actually go back, grab our sight tape booklets, and then match up the number that Johnny was on with our sight tape booklets to help us pick a tape with that 20/70 method. But so that's how we would actually set the tape. Being that we're just starting off and we have a horizontal pin option, what we're actually going to do now is we're going to go back and we're going to shoot 30 and 40, and we're going to adjust those individual pins to get our 30 and 40 set. So we've done the first method just to get that tape built, and then we'll go back here and actually move each of those individual pins. All right, so we got our top pin all dialed in, and we got our numbers for our tape, and now we're going to go back and we're going to shoot our 30 and 40, or we're going to shoot our second and third pin. So what's the cool thing with the PRÜF is that because you have 3 indicators, technically speaking, any of your 3 pins could be your floater. So we just chose to ran our top pin as our floater because we're going to be able to get easily out to 100+ yards with it if you wanted, and because after we move those indicators, we will always have the reference of that second or third. So if that's something that you want to do as well too, you can. But that's kind of one of the cool things with having multiple indicators for each pin. So we're going to go individually move those pins for our 30 and 40 now. And we'll see how he does.
Yeah, so I moved it all the way back up to 0. So I'm starting fresh. So that top pin I know is at 20. We're at 30 now, so I'm going to shoot that middle pin. We're going to get that 30 set.
Jeez.
It's a lot easier at 30 than 70. Okay, so we went down there, saw the group. It's a tiny bit high. So what I'm gonna do is figure out, I was using that middle pin. Just take it, you can loosen it right up and just move it up a tiny bit high. Tiny bit up, tighten that back up, just snug it up. And we should be good. Shoot another group, see where that lands. Yeah.
Money.
Money. Okay, so we're at 40, going to that third pin, gonna get that thing set. So I'm gonna take a shot here, see where it lands. If I had to guess, I'm gonna have to move it up. So just like I guessed, I was still a little high. So I'm gonna go ahead, chase my arrow, move that bottom pin up, snug it back down. Should be good to go. All right, so adjusted my 40. Gonna do one more group here, see where it lands. Again, I'm doing a 20, 30, 40 here in Minnesota with whitetail hunting. A lot of our shots from a tree stand, unless you're on a field edge, you probably won't get past 35 or 40. So for this one, 20, 30, 40 is gonna be the bread and butter, but you can do whatever distances you want. If you want 20, 40, 60, 20, 50, 60, whatever you want those pins at, the world is your oyster with those. So gonna go ahead, take one more group at 40. Okay, so we just shot our last group at 40. Looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty solid.
Yep, perfect. Yeah. So like this was sighting in a horizontal pin model. If you did have a vertical pin, like a 1V or a 3V, what you would then do, instead of having that adjustable where you can adjust your 20, 30, 40, what we would do in that case is we would shoot 20 and run our tape, and then when we would go and figure out our second pin, we could either walk back or we can reference the numbers on the back of the sight tape selection card. We'll give you some spacing as to what those pins would be, generally speaking, and they'll give you a good starter. But basically we could walk back and just verify, in the case with the vertical, it may be 20, 33, and 44. But then I can get that set and then move those indicators when the time comes. But we're gonna go from here and we're gonna head back and we're gonna go pick up the tape. So, all right, so we're back from the range and we have our little booklet here. We're gonna take this out, and in that little pamphlet, we're gonna have our sight tape selection card, this guy right here. This is gonna give us that pin scale on the back as well too, to the spacing of that vertical pin if you have one, so reference that. With Johnny set up and running that at that 20 and 70. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a mark, because our 20 was at the 0 mark. So we're gonna run a 20 on our test mark, and you can use any of these if you want for just a straight line. I'm just gonna make a mark here. I'm gonna make a mark out to that edge. And the reason I'm going out to the edge is it's just gonna make it a lot easier to pick that tape, because I can reference it right there. You could cut the edge of this off as well too.
What I usually do is I'll cut the edge of this right here so that the edge of the paper is right on the edge of those lines. Same with the backside, the pin scale. You can cut the edge right off there to make it easier when you actually do go to line it up on the tape.
We have that mark, and now we're gonna get his 70. So your 70 was what?
26.
26.
And again, you can write the mark on this card, bring this out to the range, write it right on there, mark it in your phone, however you want to remember those yardage marks, just make sure you remember them.
So then from there, we're at 26, right there. We're gonna make a line across, or have it cut off like Johnny did. So that's our 20 and 70 yard marks. Then from here, just because I know in Johnny's case, he's shooting an 80-pound bow, he's gonna be more on the quicker side. We're gonna start off on the lower numbers and kind of work our way up. So we're gonna start all the way down here. So in this case, we have our 20s lined up. That one, it's not quite there. Not quite there, but closer. Very close, but I'm guessing it's going to be the next one here. So then right there, if I get those lined up, that's almost a perfect right on 20 and 70. So we're going to roll with tape number 5 here for Johnny's setup.
So what I would do is I would go ahead, take your Allen key set, if I can, take this switch tape right off there, pull your setup tape off. He's going to peel that off. And again, you could put this wherever, really. The biggest thing is making sure when you put it back on the sight, you line it up with that top needle. You line your 20 up with that top needle.
Yep, so here, like you said, so his sight is bottomed out, so there's no way it can go down any further. So with it being there, he's just gonna rotate that around, and then he'll tighten up that switch tape ring so that it's on that 20-yard mark. If you did happen to get it on, like in this case, and you notice you're like a 1 yard off, either you can loosen that switch tape back up and just give it a slight turn, or what you can always do too is, as long as your sight is bottomed out and it's not moving, you can loosen one of your indicators and just slightly bump your indicator so it evens up with that 20. But now in the cases, so we also have our 30 and 40 with that horizontal pin. So it's at this time that we would then move our second and third indicators to 30 and 40 on our actual sight and tape.
Which would just kind of look like this. Loosen this, don't loosen it all the way. You can take, the edge of your pen, your fingernail, whatever it is. You could take these needles and move them, kind of hard to see here, to whatever yardage you need them to be at. Looks pretty close right there from this angle. Then what you do, again, do not over tighten this just until it's snug. Right there, and now you've got your first needle, second needle, and third needle right where they need to be, 20, 30, 40.
If you were shooting that vertical pin, again, you would reference the back of this card, and like Johnny said, with you cutting it off, sometimes it's nice and easy to make a mark or two on them just so you have a reference of where you can move that indicator to, but it'd be nice and quick and simple, and kind of gives you, when you're on the range, it gives you a good starting point as to where you can get going with it.
Yep, and then wherever you move this, so let's say my top pin I move at, 70, 75, wherever that second and third needle are, that's what that second and third pin are going to be at. So you always have a reference for every single pin
Yeah.
that's in your mag.
And then in those cases, as you guys noticed, and like we've talked about at the range, our sight tapes, our standard booklet ones will go to 100 yards. If you want to stretch it out further and go beyond 100, you have two options. Either A, if Johnny dials this down, you can make marks further on down the tape. We leave it wide open and blank, so if you want to make a mark for your 110, 120, 130. Otherwise, the other option too is to go through our custom tape builder. So that'll give you tapes out to 150 yards. So if there are guys out there that really want to stretch it out, we really like to not, allow you to make a full custom tape that's going to be 100% accurate for your given setup. Perfect. Well, thank you guys for tagging along in this video. If you guys do have any more questions or anything like that, don't be afraid to reach out. You can hit up our support email at support@dialarchery.com.
Isaiah would love to hear from you.
Or you can check out and DM us through any of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, any of those. So thanks for tagging along, guys. We'll see you in the next one.